This is a Cannondale Topstone LAB71, the US company's flagship, top of the range gravel bike, and in this video I'm going to review it. Talk about all the key features that stand out on this bike, my likes and dislikes after riding it for the last few months, talk about how much it costs and values money, how much it weighs on my scales, and of course how it performs and handles as a gravel bike, and whether it's worth considering if you're in the market for a bike like this. And if you're new around here and you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, then hit that button down there, help support my aim to do reviews like this on a regular basis. Right, let's dive in and take a closer look. So LAB71 is a new attempt by the US company to offer a really high-end version of each bike in its range. So we're talking better paint finishes and higher grades of carbon fiber for a lower weight, and of course a higher price tag as well. They've done a Super 6 Evo race bike, there's a Scalpel mountain bike, and a Topstone gravel bike as well. But is it worth paying extra for a bike like this over the regular bikes in the company's range? By the end of the video, we'll know the answer to that question. In the case of the Topstone here, the LAB71 version is lighter than a regular carbon version by a claimed 160 grams, thanks to a higher grade of carbon in the manufacturing process, and also a new paint finish. We have this rather spectacular ox blood on the back of the frame, but then for some reason they run out of money or paint, and the rest of the frame, the front half and the fork, is this naked bare carbon fiber, which is a real shame. That probably saved weight, but this paint finish over the entire frame and fork I think will look much better than the half and half we have here. But let me know what you think down below. Would this half and half put you off buying the bike? I think it might me, but that's my personal opinion. So let's move on to the main details of the frame that you need to know about if you're considering a gravel bike and a Topstone is on your shortlist. Firstly, we have tyre clearance for up to a 45mm tyre on a 700C wheel. You can run 650B if you prefer. They offer complete builds in their catalogue with those smaller wheels if you want them. But we are seeing 700 become the real default option in the gravel bike market, and a 40 or 45 is a really good choice for gravel, kind of mixed terrain riding and road riding as well. I'm sure you love the fact we have a threaded bottom bracket down below, so no press fit issues to worry about. There are mounts all over the frame and fork for extra bottles and bags, so great for bike packing. I used another version of the Topstone last year for a Trans-Cambrian Welsh gravel adventure, and with loads of bags and extra bottles it worked really well. There are mudguard or fender mounts as well. I haven't tried putting them on myself, but we have mounts on the back of the frame as you can see. And a kind of hangover, if that's the right word, from the Synapse launch with the Smart Sense, the integrated lights and battery and radar on that bike. We have that system compatibility on this bike, but they're not forcing you to buy it. They have the mount on the down tube for it if you want to upgrade, but if you don't, we have this mount with the addition of some straps so you can fit a bag or inner tube or something there, which is kind of a cool feature, but not quite as cool as the down tube storage you get on a Specialized Diverge, for example. And there's quite a big down tube, so there is space inside for storage. So this system seems a bit of a halfway house between that, let's be honest, failed Smart Sense rollout on a Synapse and a Topstone, and this doesn't really work as well as intended. So that's a bit of a disappointment, and hopefully it's something we might see disappear or be better utilised in the future. And then of course the main feature, the big selling point on the Topstone is this, what they call Kingpin. It's a through axle pivot during the seat stays to the seat tube, and that in conjunction with the shape and the layout of the carbon fibre around the top tube, the seat post, the seat tube here, and the flattened chain stays allows the whole back end to flex a lot more, and they claim up to 30mm of deflection in the saddle. And we'll talk more about the Kingpin and its impact on the bike when we come to the ride section later in this video. Now, you don't choose a LAB71 Topstone if you're on a budget or looking for the best value version of a Topstone, because the frame set, the frame and fork, retails in the UK for £3,000, and you can't buy a complete bike around the LAB71. It's a frame only package, so you either have to build it yourself if you're a budding home mechanic, as I did with this bike here, or you can get a bike shop or bike mechanic to build it for you. but it does give you the scope to build a bike of your dreams with wheels, tyres and groups that you want, and not be forced into the specification that the manufacturer decides for you. So I built this bike up to test the brand new 12-speed mechanical GRX group set. You can see a full video on my impressions of the group set by watching the video linked up in the card above there somewhere and down below in the description. Long and short of it, it works really well. Mechanical shifting, nice and light, precise, powerful disc brakes, good range from this big cassette we have here, 1051. So great for climbing up some steep climbs, or when you're going bike packing with extra weight on a bike to help you get up those climbs where the weight can really hold you back. I then went for some hologram wheels from Cannondale, their own carbon fiber wheels, high quality DT Swiss internals, and then a prime carbon aero handlebar and stem, and a fabric saddle with some carbon rails, and the complete bike weight was 7.7 kilos. So 7.7 does compare really well to other gravel bikes in this sort of space and price and build, and that with a mechanical group set is pretty darn impressive. But the LAB71 is definitely not the smartest way to buy a Topstone if you are on a budget or looking for the best value for money. On screen now is a Carbon 3, which costs just over £3,000, so only £200 more than its entire frame set. Yes, it's not as light thanks to the carbon fiber differences, but you are getting a complete bike with a Shimano GRX 11-speed 2x group set and some decent WTB wheels and tyres, and you could upgrade a few parts and make it a really nice bike. So is a Topstone a good gravel bike? Well, in short, yes, it does what you want and expect from a gravel bike. It works fantastically on country lanes and roads, and then smooth gravel like I'm riding today. And that Kingpin Outback does deliver a bit more comfort in the saddle. Not a night and day change, but you really notice it. It allows you to run narrow tyres, 40mm tyres, and still get good comfort in the saddle. And just a really fast bike. The geometry makes it good on the road and also good on these smooth gravel tracks I'm riding today. Not the most progressive, so it's not at home on steeper, rougher trails like that 51 Assassin or the BMC Urs, but for the sort of riding we're doing nice roads, country lanes and smooth gravel in the woods like today, it's right at home. Really good choice. What I like about the Topstone in particular is the geometry and the fit is quite sporty, quite close to an endurance bike like company Synapse, and that makes it a good option if you do like to ride gravel as fast as you can. Definitely a good race bike. There isn't much aero to speak of, but the fit and the handlebar definitely bring some aero to the platform. And that similarity or closeness to the endurance bike means it's really good on the road as well. And for the riding I do, I'm often riding on the road, nice quiet country lanes, and then finding bits of gravel, bridleways, byways, forest tracks, and linking it all together. And for that sort of riding, the Topstone works very well. The wheelbase is quite long and the head angle slack, and the fork trail quite long as well. So it gives really nice kind of stable handling, really not slow, but slower steering than some gravel bikes. Definitely not twitchy or fast reacting when you are carving through nice sweeping forest tracks. You definitely don't choose a Topstone if you're trying to ride technical or tame mountain bike trails. It's not really that home. The rowdier and rougher and noisier it gets on the trail. The BMC Urs and the 51 Assassin with a slacker, longer geometry, definitely more at home, or any bike with a suspension fork is definitely more at home on those sort of trails. But stick to smoother trails, nice single track flowing through the woods, and a Topstone is adequate for that sort of riding. One of the big reasons for buying or choosing the Topstone is comfort. And we have the Kingpin here, which might seem a gimmick, but it does work. It does deliver a smoother ride than most other gravel bikes in the saddle that I've ridden over the past few years. And comfort in the saddle is a hard thing to measure out in the real world, away from a lab. But based on my experience, it's a smoother ride than something like a Giant Revolt, which is a smooth ride thanks to their bendy carbon seat posts. And it's probably, for me, in the same kind of arena as the Canyon Grizzle with their VCLS split seat posts. That works really well on that bike. But I think this system does have the edge. The Topstone just has the edge over the Canyon Grizzle. There's just a bit more comfort, a bit more compliance from the back end of the bike. And it really does give the benefit of going up to a bigger tyre at lower pressures. And means you can run a fairly narrow, by gravel standards, 40mm tyre. but feel like you're on a 45mm tyre at the back with low pressures. That's based on my testing of this bike with different wheels and tyres and other bikes with different wheels and tyres I've ridden over the past few months in parallel with this bike here. So comfort in the saddle is very impressive and does give a nice smooth ride whether you're dealing with potholes on the road or actual gravel and rough terrain. So comfort in the saddle is fantastic, really impressive. There's nothing at the front, no sort of kingpin at the front, but they have worked their magic in the fork and the head tube and stuff to create a bike that doesn't feel unbalanced, doesn't feel disjointed. The front end is definitely firmer than the back, but it's not harsh, and it didn't feel like the front end really jarring my arms over rough ground. But you could, if you wanted maximum comfort, fit a suspension stem like this one here, or one from Redshift, because we have a normal steering tube, so that would plonk on top just fine and give you maximum comfort if the front end is a bit harder than you like compared to what you get at the back end, thanks to the kingpin. So I've had the bike for the last few months and been riding it a lot, so let me share some likes and dislikes. Well, I love the fact we have a threaded bottom bracket, so no press fit woes there to worry about. I love the fact we have mounts all over the frame and fork for bike packing duty, so bags, cargo capacity can be increased on a bike very well. I don't mind the cable routing being mostly external, but it does give quite a massive front end, but it does mean you fit any handlebar or stem you want. But on a premium top of the range bike like this, having a integrated front end might be more in suiting with what people would expect from a top end bike like this, at least compared to what other brands are offering in their sort of top of the range space for a bike like this. So that's a bit of a thing to point out, but not a deal breaker, depending on your point of view of internal versus external cable routing. One thing I definitely dislike is the sort of redundant Smart Sense port on the down tube here. Yes, we have this bracket and a strap supplied in the box for putting an inner tube or bag, but it feels a bit of a leftover, a bit of a carryover from that failed system, and not as nice as the down tube storage you get on a Specialized Diverge, which I think is a really smart solution for a gravel bike. Having all your tools and spare tube inside a frame, out of the way of mud and stuff, and not hanging off the bike is a real nice detail. I mentioned it earlier, but I think it's a real shame we don't have this ox blood marbled finish all over the frame, because this raw naked carbon doesn't feel very premium for me. If I'm paying $3 for a frame set and this is the frame I got, I would be a bit disappointed, to be honest. I don't think it's really doing the heavy lifting it needs to do. So that's definitely a dislike for me. Will it put me off buying a bike? Possibly. Let me know what you think by leaving a comment down below. Now, sadly, my time with the Topstone is coming to an end, and I have to dismantle the bike and send the frame back to Cannondale. But I have enjoyed riding it for the last few weeks and months, as I've enjoyed riding every Topstone in the past. And the bike does deliver everything you want from a gravel bike. Definitely at a sporty end and ideal for combining road sections with smooth, fast gravel. Not the best in technical terrain, as I mentioned earlier, thanks to geometry, but I like the versatility baked into it, all the mounts and the threaded bottom bracket. But I don't think this frame is really doing the work it needs to do to justify the fairly hefty price tag compared to buying a complete bike for more or less the same price with a group set and wheels fitted. So unless you really want that exclusive LAB71 weight and finish of this bike, then I think the Carbon 3 that I flagged up earlier, I'll put a link to it down below, is probably a smarter buy. Right, that's my review of the LAB71 Topstone done and dusted. Let me know what you think by leaving a comment down below. And if you want to see a video of the best gravel bikes that I personally recommend, then watch the video right here. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel by hitting the button right here. What are you waiting for, guys? Click that button. Right, that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again very soon.